I'm joining the World Health Organization's Safe Hands Challenge. Hand washing is one of the most effective ways of preventing the spread of coronavirus. Wash your hands with soap and water for at least 40 to 60 seconds.
Mimi naitwa Eliud Bill. Mimi ndio mwenyekiti wa Kamukunji Jua Kali Association. Nataka kusema kwamba hii ugonjwa wa coronavirus ni ugonjwa ambao uko na unashika kila mtu ambaye anaweza kuwa in contact na mtu mwingine ambaye ako nao ama amegusa kitu ambacho kimeguswa na mtu ambaye ako nayo.
Let us wash our hands. Let us keep the social distance given at least 1 meter away from one another. Let us avoid all gatherings, unnecessary gatherings. People believe that sanitizer is the main thing to fight the scourge. Let us just use the soap we have at home, even the bar soaps. So long as we maintain the cleanliness that is required, we are going to fight this.
Ili tubambane na hii ugonjwa ni lazima unawe. Hiyo ndio sababu kama sekta tumeweka hizi mtungi kila mahali ya kunawisa mkono. Na tena tunasema ya kwamba ukiwa unafanya kazi hapa, ama wewe ni customer, ama wewe ni mpita njia, ukikuja lazima unawe. Hiyo ndio kusaidia na ndio kukinga hii ugonjwa.
Hii mitungi ya kunawia mikono, members wetu walichukua jukumu, wanatengeneza hizi mitungi na wanauza kwa bei nafuu, kwa sababu wanapotengeneza hii mitungi sio biashara tu ama pesa tunatafuta. Tunatafuta kwamba hii mitungi iweze kufikia kila mtu, ndio watu waweze kunawa mikono na waweze kujikinga na hii ugonjwa. Si serikali ambayo inaweza kutusaidia peke yake, ni sisi wenyewe pia tusaidiane kwa kufuatilia ile mambo ambayo tunaambiwa na serikali.
For more information, please dial 719 or *719#. You'll get help immediately from the relevant authorities, particularly from the Ministry of Health.
Pamoja tukomeze corona.
Very good afternoon to you. This is Diaspora Dispatches, where we get to look at the news making headlines across the African continent. And also we bring you the latest statistics on the COVID-19 and how the countries in Africa have recorded the cases so far. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Of course, the station is Punchline Africa TV. We're coming to you all the way from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi. A bright and sunny day today. And so we just get into it. And we start with the statistics first, and then we will come back to the news as per the different countries that we have today in store for you. We start with Kenya, where now confirmed cases is at 384. 14 people have died, 129 have recovered. We go to Sao Tome and Principe, where the confirmed cases there is 8, recoveries is 4. And in South Sudan, confirmed cases is 34. Uganda, confirmed cases is 81. Recoveries is 52. Tanzania, confirmed cases is at 480. 16 people have died. Recoveries is at 167. And the Central African Republic, confirmed cases is 50. Recoveries there is 10. South Africa, which now leads in the number of infections, still leads. Confirmed cases is at 5,350. 103 people have died. Recoveries recoveries there is at 2,073, and Algeria confirmed cases is 3,848. 444 people have died. Recoveries is 1,702. Burundi confirmed cases 11. Death toll is 1. Recoveries is 4. Zimbabwe confirmed cases 40. 4 people have died and 5 have recovered. And we go to Sudan, where confirmed cases is at 375, and the death toll there is 28. Recoveries is 32. And Egypt, confirmed cases is at 5,268. The death toll is 380, and recoveries is 1,335. Morocco, confirmed cases is at 4,321. 168 people have died, and 928 others have recovered. Liberia, confirmed cases is at 141. 16 dead. 45 recovered. Chad, 52 confirmed cases, 2 dead and 19 recoveries. Burkina Faso confirmed cases 641, 43 death toll, and recoveries there at 498. And in Somalia, the cases there have gone really up at 582. The death toll is 28, recoveries there is 20. Gambia confirmed cases 11, 1 person have died, 8 others have recovered. We had one of our viewers here yesterday telling us that the only confirmed cases in the Gambia was 1. I guess the person meant the number of people who have died, which is 1, but the confirmed cases in Gambia right now is at 11, and recoveries is 8 there. And Cameroon confirmed cases is at 1,832. 61 people have died, and 934 others have recovered. Senegal confirmed cases 882, 9 deaths, recoveries 315. Ivory Coast confirmed cases 1,183. 14 people have died. 525 others have recovered. And Ghana confirmed cases 1,671. 16 people have died. 188 others have recovered. Mauritius confirmed cases 332. 10 people have died. 306 others have recovered. And Nigeria confirmed cases 1,728. The death toll there 51. Recoveries 307. I see Nigeria has surpassed Ghana there. And the DRC confirmed cases 500. 31 people have died. 65 others have recovered. Congo Brazzaville, 207 people confirmed cases, and 8 people have died, and 19 recovered. Rwanda confirmed cases 225, 98 recoveries. Madagascar cases there stands at 128 with 90 recoveries there. The COVID organic there seems to be working just fine for President Rajolina. And in Zambia, confirmed cases is 97, 3 people have died, and 54 recoveries. Togo confirmed cases 109, 7 people have died, 64 have recovered. Mali confirmed cases 482, 25 deaths and 129 recoveries. In Niger, 713 cases, 32 deaths, recoveries are 435. And Ethiopia, confirmed cases is at 130. 3 people have died. Recoveries at 58. Tunisia confirmed cases 980. The death toll there is 40. Recoveries 294. Djibouti confirmed cases at 1,077. 2 people have died. 599 others have recovered. And in Guinea, confirmed cases is 1,351 and 7 people have died. 313 others have recovered. Equatorial Guinea confirmed cases 315. 1 death and 9 recoveries. Gabon, 276 cases, 3 deaths, 67 recoveries. Libya, 61 cases, 2 deaths, 18 recoveries. Mozambique, confirmed cases, 76 recoveries. There is 12 and no death has been reported. And in Seychelles, confirmed cases 11 and 6 recoveries. Sierra Leone, confirmed cases at 104. 4 people have died and 12 have recovered. And in Benin, confirmed cases is 64. 1 person has died and 53 others have recovered. And confirmed cases in Eritrea is at 39. Recoveries there is 19. Guinea-Bissau, 205 confirmed cases, 1 death and 19 recoveries. And finally, Angola, confirmed cases is 27. 2 people have died and 7 have recovered. So the African statistics of today, and we prepared this about an hour ago. The confirmed cases is stood at 36,456. The death toll in Africa is 1,586. Recoveries is 11,906. And of course, the virus-free countries still remain Comoros and Lesotho. And the total confirmed cases worldwide is at 3,222,392. Confirmed cases today by only is 4,208. The death toll is at 228,270, representing 7.08% of the total number of confirmed cases worldwide. The new deaths that has been reported today is 240, and also the ones who are now in critical conditions worldwide is at 56,322, representing 3% of the total number of confirmed cases worldwide. And recoveries now has surpassed 1 million, and they're up to 1,005,446, and representing 31.20% of the total number of confirmed cases worldwide. And the affected countries in the world still stand at 212. I will not get into the detailed countries there worldwide, because I'd like for us to just start talking about Africa and see what else is happening in this continent. Emmanuel Manuel, thank you. I see you're here, and you're saying South Sudan records, yes, 35 cases. My bad there. I think I should have, corrected that. Cases of coronavirus pandemic, no death yet reported, and there is a serious fighting in Guinea. And this has been a point of concern even for myself as I go through this news item. And I've been reading about this death toll in Guinea, the fighting in Guinea, and also is it the same place that women were raped? And I think I have that as part of my news items today. So I'd like for us to just let's just go into the African news right now, and we start with South Africa. And the United States Secretary of State, Mr. Mike Pompeo, has criticized South Africa for accepting more than 200 Cuban medics to help fight coronavirus. Mr. Pompeo accused Cuba of profiting from the pandemic, the AFP news agency has reported. And this is what Mr. Pompeo said: "We've noticed how the regime in Havana has taken advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic to continue its exploitation of Cuban medical workers." That is what Mr. Mike Pompeo said on Wednesday. And the Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel reacted to Mr. Pompeo's by tweeting, "The United States lie deliberately when they attack Cuba's international medical cooperation with lies and slanders." The arrival of Cuban medics in South Africa has received mixed reactions, with the South African Medical Association saying unemployed local medics should have been given priority. I don't know how you feel about this, but this is a conversation we must certainly have in this call. Just after I'm through reading this news, because I don't understand. Well, it is a good gesture for the Cuban government to bring the doctors to South Africa, but I don't think they're coming to work there for free. I've not heard they're volunteering, and South African Medical Association is wondering, wait a minute, we have people here who have qualified, have gone through the years, and doctors, it takes years for you to train, for you to be a medical doctor, and then another top of many years for you to become a specialist there, and then you sit there, you've been unemployed, and then your government is bringing in doctors from outside. I don't know how that is. So we'll talk about that. Thank you very much. And still in South Africa has reversed a decision to allow cigarette sales while coronavirus restrictions are eased at the start of the next month. The government had said smokers will be able to buy cigarettes from the 1st of May. A cooperative governance minister, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, who leads the National Coronavirus Command Council, said health considerations had played a part in the decision to maintain the ban. South Africans were given only a few days notice to stock up when the government announced the lockdown, which also stopped the sale of alcohol. Very interesting. Because it has been said that because from the statistics, more men have died from the coronavirus compared to women, and they're saying the reason as to why there are more men smoking and drinking, and that in effect has affected their lungs, so they are more susceptible to this. So those are just some of the reasons that were being floated as to why perhaps men have registered more deaths compared to the women. And so South Africa had gone ahead and banned smoking and also a sale of alcohol. I don't know how that has worked there, especially for the people who enjoy to, commune in one of those. And we move to Mozambique. And Mozambique's President Filipe Nyusi has extended the country's state of emergency for 30 days to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. President Nyusi said the extension was because the initial state of emergency declared on 1st of April had worked in slowing down the spread of the coronavirus. He, however, warned that some people were still leaving their homes for non-essential trips and urged people to do much more to curb the coronavirus spread. We move to Guinea-Bissau, where the health ministry in Guinea-Bissau says now the Prime Minister Nuno Gomes Nabiam has tested positive for coronavirus. Interior Minister Bosch Kande and 2 other ministers have also tested positive for the COVID-19. Mr. Nabiam said the several members of an interministerial coronavirus committee had the disease. What? The coronavirus interministerial committee, the members there who are supposed to be handling the COVID-19 pandemic there in Guinea-Bissau, a good number of them have tested for COVID-19. Okay, so the Guinea-Bissau has a very poor healthcare system due to mismanagement and a lack of resources, and the country has so far confirmed 205 coronavirus cases and only 1 death. We go to Nigeria, where the Presidential Task Force on the COVID-19 has directed government offices, banks and manufacturing companies to reopen on Monday. The chairman of the PTF, Boss Mustafa, and the coordinator, Dr. Asani Aluyu, stated that these are the media briefing of the group on Wednesday in Abuja, where they give guidelines for the gradual reopening of the economy. According to them, banks will start operating from Monday, but will only open from 8 to 2 p.m. and must adhere to social distancing measures. They also stated that people in public spaces must use face masks, adding that schools will remain closed and social parties should not be held. But even as we speak, I think I was just reading the same story from Nigeria, where about 60 people were, is it about 60? Is it 16 or 60? Please correct me if I'm wrong, were arrested in a hotel. They were having a party somewhere in Nigeria. Is it in Lagos or Abuja? One of those. And so government officers and many business premises had been shut down since last month, when the President, Major Muhammad Buhari, announced measures to stop the spread of the coronavirus. And still in Nigeria, and the Nigerian president has reacted to the discovery that a dead man was included in the list of names sent to the Senate for approval in the board of some federal government agencies by himself. Now, the president on Tuesday forwarded a list of 38 persons for approval to the Senate. However, the news later emerged that one of the nominees, Chief Tobias Chukwuemeka Okoro from Ebonyi State, was already dead, and his name was still included in the list. What? So he's said to have died on February 27th, 2020. You need to stop right now. And Okuru's name was included for confirmation as a board member of the Federal Character Commission. Wait, the Federal Character Commission. And one of the characters there that was supposed to form this commission died on February 27th, and the name was still included on the Federal Character Commission. What is this Federal Character Commission for? Anybody from Nigeria, please help me out here. I want to understand. First of all, it's very interesting, the Federal Character Commission, and then one of the people who was supposed to be nominated in this commission died in February 27th. Can you imagine? And still President Buhari forwarded this name. He did not know what is really happening. The person died, but still on Tuesday, this name was presented to the Senate as part of the people who were supposed to be, included in that list, the nominees, and he had died on the 27th of February, and he was supposed to be a board member of the Federal Character Commission. What is Federal Character Commission, and what is the mandate and responsibilities? Nigerians, or anybody who is watching me from somewhere up there, please enlighten me. I need to understand. It's very interesting story there. And we move to Cameroon, where the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, has instructed mobile telephone companies MTN and Orange to shut down accounts opened by Maurice Kamto to collect funds in the fight against COVID-19. In two separate letters addressed to the companies, the Paul Atanganji says this Savi Cameroon Survival Initiative created by Kamto is illegal and does not have the authorization of the Ministry of Territorial Administration, Supervisory Authority of Political Parties and Associations. He added that it is legal for political parties to receive external funding, as the initiative also welcomes funds from persons abroad. All right. Do you think President Paul Biya is reading too much into this, or perhaps if he's receiving some contribution from abroad? You've heard Dr. Matsanga here talk so much about regime change. So Paul Biya could be worried about some of the funds that, the opposition leader there, Mr. Maurice Kamto, could be receiving in the kitty to go to help fight the COVID-19. And, Cameroon right now is one of the leading countries in sub-Saharan Africa. It's actually leading in sub-Saharan Africa. No, not leading, but one of the countries that has recorded high numbers in sub-Saharan Africa. All right. And then we go back to South Sudan, where Intergovernmental Authority on Development has given South Sudan's peace parties until early next month to reconstitute the parliament and agree to form state governments. Now, this emerged on Thursday in the 71st extraordinary session of IGAD Council of Ministers held via a video conference under the chairmanship of Asma Abdallah, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Sudan. The meeting was convened to deliberate on the status of implementation of the revitalized agreement of the resolution of the conflict in the Republic of South Sudan. The peace parties formed the presidency in February and later the cabinet in March, but disagreement over the allocation of state governments has stalled the process of fully forming the unity government. And we shall talk about these matters here in South Sudan. And now to the matters that one of our viewers here had raised still on South Sudan. And now a human rights defender has called on the unity government to punish soldiers accused of raping women, 19 women to be specific, in Yei. Earlier this week, a lawmaker representing Yei River County at the National Legislature alleged that 19 women were raped by soldiers between March and April this year. But the SSPDF said on Tuesday it had not received reports of gang rape of women in Yei River by men in uniform, as alleged by the lawmaker. And we move to Sierra Leone, where there has been an attempted prison break in Sierra Leone after recently arrived inmate developed symptoms of coronavirus. A warden was killed and several others injured in the riot of Bademba Road prison in the capital Freetown. The jail was set ablaze. Hold on. Now, Bademba Road prison has a capacity of 300 prisoners, but currently houses more than 1,000. And the criminal courts have been suspended for a month in an effort to stem the spread of the COVID-19 in jails. There has been 104 confirmed coronavirus cases in Sierra Leone, and 4 deaths so far. And we go back to South Africa, where Jacob Zuma, South Africa's former president, has abandoned a legal bid to hold a corruption trial on charges related to a 1990s arms deal. According to his office, a statement released by his foundation on Wednesday said the Constitutional Court had accepted the previous day his withdrawal of the application for leave to appeal against prosecution. Zuma is alleged to have taken bribes of 4 million rand, which equates to about $220,000 related to a 1999 $3.4 billion arms deal with French aerospace and defense giant Thales. When he was deputy president, he rejects the allegations as a political motivated witch hunt. Mr. Zuma, I don't know if he seems to be wading just fine in these muddy waters of corruption there. Mr. Zuma, he seems to be still finding his way and maneuver. I don't know if they'll be able to really pin him down and perhaps prosecute him in some of these charges and allegations that have been put forth. And as we continue to, the cases are ongoing in the courts there in South Africa. We move to Libya, where Turkey has accused Libya's eastern-based military commander Khalifa Haftar of seeking to create a military dictatorship and vowed to defend the government in the capital Tripoli. Haftar's withdrawal from a landmark 2015 United Nations brokered agreement to unite the country, which Haftar termed a thing of the past, on Monday showed his true intentions. Turkey's foreign ministry said in a statement on Wednesday. On Monday, after his self-styled Libyan National Army was expelled from several western cities, Haftar said he accepted the will of the people and vowed to create a new government. And we end with Lesotho, where the head of Lesotho's ruling party turned down Prime Minister Thomas Tambane's demands for immunity from prosecution in connection with the shooting death of his former wife in the Southern African Kingdom. The decision by the leader of the All Basotho Convention Party is the latest in a week of setbacks for the 80-year-old embattled leader, who is facing pressure to resign before the end of July, as he promised. Earlier this week, a magistrate ruled the Lesotho's High Court will decide if Tambane can claim immunity from a charge that he murdered his former wife. Also this week, the Senate modified the constitution, limiting the Prime Minister's power to dissolve Parliament and call fresh elections. A leader of the opposition party, the Democratic Congress DC, Motla Lentoa Letosa, told the French news agency AFP that Tambane has run out of options and the only thing that's left for him is to vacate office. And that is the latest news from Africa this afternoon, about 12:30 here in Kenya. Thank you so much. Are you wondering who is this lady reading the news? My name is Miriam Magute. Thank you so much for joining. I'm glad you found time to be with us here today. Peter Taban Madiang, you're saying Mike Pompeo should just keep his mouth shut. Cuba used her doctors to save lives in the world, while his country used bombs and imperialism to destroy the world. But Peter Taban Mading there, well, I agree, and I totally agree. South Africa right now has, a huge number of people there. Actually, it's the leading in Africa as we speak there. As I had read there earlier, right now the confirmed cases in South Africa is 5,350. The death toll is at 103, and the number of recoveries there is 2,073. All right, so agreed. South Africa needs help, and it appears that perhaps the staff there has been stretched to capacity there. But still, while it is a good thing that Cuba availed the doctors to go and help about 200 Cuban medics to help battle the coronavirus. First of all, we don't know if they volunteered, if Cuba just gave its doctors, or they'll be paid. But also, while I agree with the fact that it requires as much support as we can give to South Africa, well and good. But there's a point here that has been brought up by the South African Medical Association. And this is what they're saying. Now, the arrival of the Cuban medics in South Africa has received mixed reactions, with the South African Medical Association, SAMR, saying unemployed local medics should have been given priority. Now, here's the problem. As much as the Cuban doctors have come in to help, and right now in South Africa, the SAMR is saying, the South African Medical Association is saying, wait a minute, we have our people here who we have trained. We have our people here who graduated months ago, years ago, and have not been employed yet, and yet they are just as qualified, and you not give them the first priority. Instead, you'll go out there and bring in Cuban doctors to help us. And I think that is where I'm finding issue with just there. Why couldn't South Africa consider its own people first, the people, its own doctors first, before they would go out there and bring in the Cuban doctors? Because I have not read anywhere where they're saying they've come to volunteer to treat people there in South Africa, unless they're volunteers. But if not, if they will be compensated, then why couldn't South Africa consider its own doctors first, the people there who have studied, who are just as qualified to help in a medical emergency in the country? And that is where my issue is, and that is where South African Medical Association issue is. They don't have a problem, yes, bring in the doctors, but first, why could you not consider having the qualified medical doctors we have in this country who have been out of employment, who have been waiting to be employed by the government, and who are just as qualified. I don't know. Peter Taban Mading, I don't know what you say to that. Is the South African Medical Association right in complaining about these doctors being brought from Cuba, and yet there are other doctors in South Africa who are just as qualified and have not been employed yet, and yet the government is bringing in help from out there? Are they justified to lay this complaint, or it's all good? All right. And Emmanuel Malual, you're saying it is time for IGAD to be serious about peace in South Sudan because nothing has been done since. We have no parliament, a national army, no economic reforms, no transitional justice and accountability. Those are part of the peace agreement. And Emmanuel Malual, I think you watch us here. You are one of our ardent viewers here on Punchline Africa, and you already know how I feel about these things, because these are matters, and remember, there were two sticky issues that were supposed to have been solved before the signing of the peace deal that happened in February this year, that saw the beginning of the unity government being formed, and for a transition government now before South Sudan goes to another election. And the two matters, one was to resolve the number of states. That was one of the contentious issues, which later on, whether they agreed or not, but they seem to have agreed. They went back to the 10 states, and then on top of that, President Salva Kiir, suggested 3. What do you call them? I've forgotten the term they used there, but the other 3, yeah, all right. So, and then after that, another issue outside of the states that had been contentious was security, and just to take care of the security in the country this is one of the most contentious issues that nobody bothered really to look at, and so they were just worried and fighting over the number of states and all that, but they forgot a very important component for a country to be secure, for our people to feel even safe. Even as we speak, after the signing of that peace deal finally that happened in February, it is very sad to learn that a lot of South Sudanese are still in the refugee camps and do not feel very safe going back to their villages, do not feel very safe going back to their homes. Matter of fact, we just read the news there earlier where now some women were raped there in Aye, and I think one of our viewers brought this to our attention just a few minutes ago, and I think I went through that. All right. So the insecurity in South Sudan is rampant. The insecurity is, and so I don't understand why. Even after signing of that peace deal that happened in February, and I've been very adamant, and I think in expressing my very personal opinion about the matters in South Sudan, the leaders there, obviously they were coerced into signing this peace agreement. It did not come voluntarily. Remember, they postponed these things time and time again. It was first supposed to have been signed last year in May. That deadline passed. It was pushed to November. That deadline passed. And now in February, and this is after a lot of threats from the United States and other countries that really coerced them into signing and agreeing to start, to work together towards realizing a more stable South Sudan in the future. So they were coerced to come together. And I always wondered now, will they require the rest of the world, IGAD, AU, United Nations, to be coming in and coercing them every time there's an important matter that needs to be resolved there in South Sudan? Because if they're not willing and they don't put the interests of the country first, and we have established that. And how have you established that? Through their actions, through the things that they fight about, through their priorities. They're not concerned about the people of South Sudan. Neither are they concerned about the country of South Sudan. They are so concerned about their interest as a people. Me as Machar, what am I getting out of this? Me as President Salva Kiir, what is my take on this? What am I getting out of this? And so that's why they've been holding the whole country hostage. And so even after signing of the peace deal back in February, You would think that until now, progress would have been made. Of course, now we will use COVID-19 as a very good excuse for things to have, for the setback or for the lack of progress that has been experienced even after the signing of the peace deal in February. But still, the willingness by the leaders there has been lacking, has been acutely lacking there in South Sudan. And so now here we are. We still have women being raped there by the soldiers in the villages. And I've said time and time again, it is the soldiers there, the security organ in South Sudan. It's something that has not been thought through very well. And this is something they should have addressed, carry out workshops, try to unify these soldiers and try to have them behave like, the disciplined forces we see across the world. Because right now, the South Sudan soldiers, first of all, they are divided along the allegiance, lines. Some of them pay their allegiance to President Salva Kiir, others pay their allegiance to Mr. Dr. Riek Machar, the first vice president there, others to Thomas Cirillo, others to, these are the factions in there, warring factions there in South Sudan. So they don't have that mentality of country first. They don't have that mentality, that we are here because we are supposed to protect the people and the territory that is South Sudan. That has not been drilled into them very well. So they still have those militia-like tendencies. And that's why you see now women are being raped by the soldiers themselves. These are the same people they're supposed to be protecting. And nobody's talking about this. So IGAD here is now coming out to remind South Sudan that, that peace deal that you signed in February, you need to go right ahead and ensure that, that you pass. And this is what IGAD is saying. Now, Intergovernmental Authority on Development has given South Sudan's peace parties until next month. That is starting tomorrow, right? Tomorrow is 1st of May, the Labor Day, right? Next month to reconstitute the parliament and agree to form state governments. So if they're saying early next month, so I'm looking at next week, basically, and to see that they reconstitute the parliament and agree to form a state governments. Remember, even we were talking about here yesterday and the other day about the wife to Dr. Riek Machar, who is the minister there for defense, refusing to appear before the Parliamentary Committee on Defense to answer to some very, pertinent questions there that had been raised in regards to the safety of South Sudanese during this time of COVID-19. And she said, no, I cannot appear before that committee because they don't have the mandate. So now one of the things that IGAD is asking is for now South Sudan to reconstitute the parliament, all right, and agree to form state governments. That has not happened yet. So we've not heard, and the parties formed the presidency in February and later the cabinet in March. But of course, disagreements over the allocation of state governments has stalled the process of fully forming the unity government. So now we saw even when they were forming the ministry, the cabinet ministers and cabinet secretaries here, we call them the cabinet secretaries. And that list and the number of ministries, how many were they? 32, right? If I can remember very well. And I wish I had printed those, the number, even the names of the titles. Ridiculous. And you could see just a repetition of work and all of that, and I don't understand that. And I understand perhaps they're trying to do this to have just a bloated cabinet to accommodate all these fractions. And it's a problem. It's a problem there. So they've not been able, even that took a lot of time before they could even agree on the names. So now we see here IGAD is urging them to reconstitute the parliament early next month. And next month is tomorrow, so I'm looking at next week. And this is something that we shall be watching together and see if South Sudan will be able to reconstitute the parliament and agree to form the government states next week, because that is early next month. That is next week. And so we see if they'll be able to do that. So my question is, and I've always asked, and I'm just wondering, will South Sudan, for it to make any major decision in the country, for the leadership to move the country even farther than where it is right now, will they always require somebody with a big stake like IGAD or United Nations or African Union or the United States, or just everybody out there, or SADC, to come in and tell them to put their house in order? Will they always be needing somebody to patronize them, to tell them what to do? That is the problem I have with the leadership of South Sudan. The world mediated this process. The world backed the peace process and birthed this new signing of the new peace deal. Do we need to continue pushing the leadership of South Sudan to do the right thing? That is the big question, and I think that is what I sometimes find a problem with. And Joseph Otto Manasi, you're saying, Miriam, when a person calls you by your name, you know it's serious. So let me hear what Joseph is saying here today. He's saying the peace agreement in South Sudan has become ugly. Everyone is fighting to get a position to her kins and tribesmen. This is the cause of the delay in those decisions this time around. Me and my family, and God for us all. Alrighty then. Congo Tro, you're saying good morning. You're saying good morning, America. Come on now. Good morning, Africa. Are you watching us from America? All right. I suppose you're watching us from America. Which state there? A very good morning to you and thank you. But it is afternoon here, 1:45 p.m. here in Nairobi. And Henry Chalom Chike, you're saying calling Cuba is the way the leaders create opportunities to loot the treasury. All right. So you don't agree at all with this move by the South African government to bring in Cuban doctors, and yet there are lots of qualified doctors in South Africa who have been waiting after graduation to be hired, but the government said no, not now. Let's just bring in these Cuban doctors here. And so you're saying that could be an opportunity to loot the treasury. All right. Very interesting there. And Emmanuel, you're saying we have peace in Presidential Palace and Pyramid Hotel, but fighting in part of the country in Jonglei State, Lake State, Central Equatorial State, or tribal conflicts are indicators of peace, of peace to collapse. All right. Okay. And Lamin Konate, you're saying good morning. A very good morning to you. And you're saying disheartening to know that Africans are still used to fight proxy wars senselessly. All right. And Emmanuel, you're saying we have no national army, but we have ethnics and tribal militias that lack discipline. That is why we are carrying out massive rapes and killing of civilians. And this is something that the government has to look at. Remember, even just a few weeks before the signing of the peace deal, a report that was presented to the United Nations was very worrying. They are saying there has also been a renewed recruitment of child soldiers. I don't know how that has gone, and I don't know if they found any cause there to worry, but that report really shed a light in terms of how much work still is there in South Sudan. And you're saying there's a serious insecurity in all parts of my country, South Sudan, but the biggest hypocritical assumption there from many of our leaders is when they always think that a peaceful Juba means a peaceful South Sudan. So what you're saying in essence is, Peter Teban Mading, you're saying there is some semblance of peace in Juba. So because of this, your leaders there sit pretty thinking, because Juba is quite relatively quiet and peaceful, so the rest of South Sudan should just copy-paste that. They're good. Is that what you're saying? But that is not really what is happening, the true picture on the ground there. All right. Thank you so much. There is something that I want to talk about. There is something that I need to talk about. This issue of, in Nigeria, first of all, they want to, the Presidential Task Force has directed government officials, offices, banks, and manufacturing companies to reopen on Monday. Here in Kenya, the banks are not really closed, and the government offices were not really closed. What the government of Kenya did was say in an office, there should be a restricted number of people that are allowed to be in the office at the same time, so that they're able to observe a social distancing. And also the banks, I see now they work from 8 to 3 p.m. So the banks are never closed. We need to get the money, So I'm shocked that in Nigeria, banks and manufacturing companies were closed and they'll be reopening on Monday. I think that is a good move. And what really shocked me is that this person that President Buhari presented to the Senate to be approved, And I've been waiting for a Nigerian here to help me what this Federal Character Commission is for the FCC. What is its work? What does it stand for? What does it do there in Nigeria? So this person was waiting to be confirmed as a board member in this Federal Character Commission, and yet this person died on 27th of February. And this list was presented to Senate on Tuesday by President Buhari. They presented the list of 38 persons for approval by the Senate. And this one of the people who was supposed to be joining this Federal Character Commission. I want to know what this commission does. This character had died on February 27th, and the president and his people didn't know this. All right, I would think such a person perhaps is a well-known individual. Yeah, people did the research even before forwarding these names. People took their time to research on this before it was forwarded to President Muhammadu Buhari. I'm not surprised that Buhari did not know this person died or did not know this person at all. Because if you've been following the politics and the intrigues in Nigeria, then you would know that President Buhari is just too aloof, completely out of touch with what is happening there in Nigeria. And he was shocked earlier this year to learn that actually Boko Haram still exists and Boko Haram is still causing a lot of mayhem. And he was really shocked at the magnitude in which Boko Haram has intensified its fight in Nigeria and the neighboring countries. And he said, he was even quoted saying, "Oh my God, I thought we had defeated Boko Haram." And so he acted shocked there. So that tells you this is a person who resides in an alternative universe, as Mr. Trump does. He exists in an alternative universe there, telling people to be injected with disinfectant. A crazy human being. But Mr. Buhari, completely out of touch with what really happens there in Nigeria. So I'm not surprised that he went ahead and presented this list of the nominees he wanted for this FCC, the Federal Character Commission. Please, Nigerians, let me know what this commission does. The Federal Character Commission. What is that? I've never heard of a commission with such a name. And what does it do there in Nigeria? And why do you nominate a character that is already dead for the Federal Character Commission? Come on now, Buhari. So you tell me what this is about. And we see also in Cameroon here, of course, the government there has refused for the opposition leader, Mr. Maurice Kamto, to start. He had. We call it here a pay bill. He had started a pay bill where you could help in, he wanted to collect funds and help in the fight against COVID-19 in Cameroon. And the government came out and said no, because this kitty that he had formed to collect funds to help in the fight against the COVID-19 also welcomed funds from outside the country. And so I think Paul Biya might have sensed this could be a very good opportunity for some, foreign element to try to bring in some money here that could necessitate a regime change. Remember, Mr. Paul Biya Hadley has come out to speak about the situation in Cameroon in regards to the COVID-19. He was only seen on public once when the French ambassador to Cameroon went to visit him at the official government state house there. And he didn't say much, so he's been in hiding, he's been in isolation. Well, it is understandable according to his age, but still, as a head of state, you're required to come out and just show that the country, somebody is in charge in the country. So Mr. Paul Biya there has not been very present even during this very difficult time. And we've seen Cameroon has recorded high cases, one of the countries that have recorded high cases here in the continent, as per the list that I read earlier. Cameroon's cases right now is at 1,832. And you would think this is something that would make a head of state to not sleep at night, to come out and try to find solutions and lead the country from the front, but that has not been the case there in Cameroon. So Henry Shalom Chike, you're saying supposedly the commission is responsible for equitable distribution of resources and employment among the Nigerian tribes. But, all right, that is well and good. But why do they call it the Federal Character Commission? Like, who came out? Who came up with this name? the Federal Character Commission. Who names a commission like that? Only in Nigeria. Only in Nigeria. And it's very interesting. And then the characters that were supposed to go to head to be part of that board dies in February, and president does not even know. Still goes ahead to present these names to the Senate on Tuesday. Very interesting, right? Not quite. I think a cause for concern there in Nigeria. So, of course, we've talked about South Sudan and what is happening there in South Sudan, and also this story from Lesotho and this prime minister there in Lesotho, Mr. Thomas Tambane. Remember, he came to power in 2017, and before that, before just being sworn in as the prime minister, just 2 days before the swearing in. Was it 2 days before the swearing in or 2 months? Very close before he was sworn in. He had been going through a very brutal, divorce case. He wanted to divorce his wife, the mother of his children, and the wife was saying, no, I don't want to be divorced because you have not given me enough reason to want to walk away from you. So even in that, they had separated, and Mr. Tambane had started dating or started leaving or had married this other younger wife there. I can't remember her name. Oh, her name is Messiah, I think. Messiah. So this Messiah lady is now being investigated over the killings of Mr. Tambane. So the wife of Mr. Tambane died. She was driving and she was killed. She was shot at while driving home. During just before the Prime Minister, Mr. Tambane, was sworn in as the Prime Minister of Lesotho. That was in 2017. So because he's been in power, and at that time people did not really, think there was a foul play on the part of, the Prime Minister. He was sworn in and all was well. And now, after the investigations are opened a couple of years later, it is found that Lesotho's, Prime Minister has connections with the death of his ex-wife, and also his now wife is now being probed and appears to be the mastermind behind the killing of Mr. Tambane's former wife. The lengths people will go to, to keep somebody. And so now, the party there, All Basotho Convention party, has been wanting him to leave office, and he's been called to step aside. He's 80 years old. He's been facing too much pressure to resign, but Tambane has refused. He was given a package there, being told, we shall be very kind to you. He has refused. And the recent, what he wanted now to be done in the recent times, he wanted to be granted immunity. So what is he telling us? That he is guilty? By the time you're asking for immunity, that means you already know, my friend, that you're guilty. So he's been asking to be accorded immunity should he step down, so that he'll not be prosecuted even after he has stepped down over the death of his ex-wife. I think more reasons why police there in Lesotho needs to investigate this Prime Minister Thomas Tambane. So he has refused. And now the head of Lesotho's ruling party turned down Prime Minister Thomas Tambane's demands for immunity from prosecution in connection with the shooting death of his former wife in the Southern African Kingdom. There, and the decision by the leader of the All Basotho Convention, party is the latest in a week of setbacks for the 80-year-old embattled leader, who is facing immense pressure to resign before the end of July. As he had promised. He had promised that he would resign after July, but now he's saying, before I resign, please, can you assure me of some immunity before I can step down? These people who just are in office and they think we all owe them our lives, so they can do whatever they want. And they want to get away with that. And another person who's facing some, problems of his own is former President Jacob Zuma, who had also gone to court and wanted to hold a corruption trial on charges related to the 1990, arms deal. And now he said, you know what, he has no problem. The court process can proceed so that, whatever happens there. And we've seen in... See, now this is something very interesting. In Guinea-Bissau, the health ministry in the country says Prime Minister Nuno Gomes Nabiam has tested positive for coronavirus, right? So Interior Minister Boche Kande and 2 other ministers also tested positive for coronavirus. So this is the interesting part. Mr. Nabiam and other several members of an interministerial coronavirus committee had the disease. So these are people who had been put in charge to take care, to spearhead, measures by the Guinea-Bissau's government there to fight coronavirus in Guinea. And now this interministerial committee, there are a huge number of them, tested positive for coronavirus. Nobody cared to take a test before they set this committee or what really happened there in Guinea-Bissau. So I guess now President Alpha Conde went ahead and had his referendum just as the world had started fighting the COVID-19, and it slipped because people are just so busy battling this COVID-19. Sometimes back last month he went ahead and had this controversial referendum to change the constitutional allowed term for the presidency. His term is supposed to be ending this year, his second and last term. According to Guinea's constitution, you serve for 2 terms each 5 years and then you leave. But President Alpha Conde wanted to change, and there was a lot of criticism over that, and he chose the best time where the world is just not paying attention to democracy and elections and whatever. People are just focused on staying alive, fighting COVID-19, and he had that controversial, referendum there. So now we see the people that he had put in charge to spearhead the fight against COVID-19 in the country, led by the Prime Minister there, have tested positive for coronavirus. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and I hope we can meet here sometimes later, I think in the evening or tomorrow. And Congo tour, you're saying, God bless you, sister. It's good news in Africa. All right, God bless you too, and thank you. And Zizu, you're saying, Biss' only appearance is supposedly a fake video analyzed by professionals. The Cameroonian president has barely been present in this country. He's not present. He's more like what we see in North Korea right now. Kim Jong-un. People don't even know whether he's alive or he's just a cabbage somewhere. People don't know, and it is the similar case with Paul Biya. And why are the people there not questioning and querying? Why are Cameroonians just quiet? Why are they not demanding for the president to come speak? Remember, even President Buhari, even after the first confirmed cases in Nigeria, it took him nearly a whole month to come up and speak to Nigerians, and even the Senate had to debate this in Parliament in Nigeria and say, we are demanding that President Buhari come and speak to the nation. So by the time you have to be compelled to come and show leadership in a country that you are leading, that's a problem. And that means you shouldn't be there. You should be leading anybody in the first place, because you don't qualify. Because leaders are supposed to lead from the front. Thank you so much. So I'll see you here tomorrow for more news coming from across the continent, and indeed more news from Kenya. My name is Miriam Agutu. It has been a pleasure. Good afternoon.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.